This is my progress report on my music magazine. So I'm going to be talking through what ideas I've had so far and how I've expanded them and developed them. So I started with my response to the brief, and I chose the brief to make a music magazine, which is the print brief. And I had an idea of doing an enemy style magazine because that's a magazine which I like to read. So I've got knowledge about that, and it's indie rock genre, and I like that style of music. So I came up with a basic idea for a primary and secondary audience. So the primary audience is 23 to 26 year olds. So the university graduates, they've gone into a good job, they've got a high income bracket of A to B. They're still young enough to be fox thinkers, and they're creative and all that stuff. And then the secondary audience is 15 to 18 year olds. So it's teenagers and perhaps who got into that kind of music from their upbringing, from their fathers, or and they're fox thinkers and creative. And I also looked into the contradicting ideologies between the independent roots of the indie genre versus the fact that most music magazines and the artists themselves are owned by conglomerates. So I looked into that a bit more when I went to do my genre research. I found that indie labels are often owned by conglomerates, and this allows them to horizontally integrate and advertise, which contradicts the independent roots of the indie genre. However, many independent labels struggle to produce because they lack money. So, however, many artists, like Arctic Monkeys for example, they turned down many major labels in favour of Domino, who allowed them autonomy. So it shows the representation that artists of this genre prioritise their autonomy, and they will turn down a major label company if they don't think it's right for them. So it shows the convention of artists of this genre going against the society norm as well. And I did some topic research on Arctic Monkeys, David Bowie, Foo Fighters, Bon Iver, Pink Floyd, Wolf Alice. So they're all similar to artists which I'd like to feature in my magazine, but also they're all slightly different. So I can look into a bit more of what kind of artist I want to use. And then I looked at influential figures. So I looked at Robert Christgau, who is one of the first rock critics in the 1960s. And he wrote for magazines like Rolling Stone and Billboard, which are both prestigious music magazines and inspirations to my own. And then I looked at Mark Beaumont, who is an NME music journalist and was the author of the infamous Keith Richards interview. When he was asked what the weirdest thing he'd ever snorted was, he said his father's cremated body. Then I looked at Stephen Wells, who was described by another NME editor to be a tastemaker, so suggesting that he influenced other people's opinions, which makes him an opinion leader, which refers to the two-step flow theory, which is an audience theory. Then I looked at institutions, so I looked at IPC Media, which produced NME, but that name's now disappeared under Time Inc., which is a massive conglomerate. And then I looked at Bauer Media Group, Wenner Media, and Freeway Pressing, which all publish magazines similar to the one which I'd like to. And I came to the conclusion that I would use Time Inc. because it produces NME, which is the most similar to the one which I'd like to produce. And it also has a very big online presence, which is important because my target audience are all going to be digital natives, because it's 15 to 18 and 23 to 26, so they're all under 30, they're all fox thinkers. And while this subverts the stereotypically underground indie roots in the convention, many experts argue that Web 2.0 has already made underground extinct because everything's available at the click of a button now, so it's impossible to stay hidden. And then I did technical research, so I looked at rule of thirds, which I'll be using, and I also looked at a high key lighting setup, which I'd like to use for the cover photo on my front cover, and I also looked at the simple editing of a magazine cover, so that'll be useful. And then I did audience profiling, so I expanded on the primary and secondary audience, which I'd already thought of. I looked at CRAGs, so A to B for primary audience and E income bracket for my secondary audience, and then any race, and obviously 23 to 26-year-olds for my primary audience, which are Fox thinkers, 15 to 18-year-olds for my secondary audience, so they're creative teenagers with music experience, perhaps due to their upbringing, and also intellectual. And both genders, although the split will probably be more 2-to-1 to men and, well, male and female, based on the NME readership, and any sexuality, because the audience of this kind of magazine are more sophisticated and socially aware. There'd be no prejudice or discrimination based on sexuality, so that wouldn't be a problem. And then for VAL types, I looked at experiences and innovators for my target audience because they're both young, energetic, and excited about discovering new things like new bands or new music. And then for the young and Rubicon model, I'm targeting the explorers and the reformers because these are both also interested in discovery, socially aware, young in nature, if not in reality, and they value their own independent judgment, which is really important for this genre. As I said before, so Arctic Monkeys turned down major labels because they denied them this opportunity for their own autonomy. And also I'm targeting millennials, which is anyone born between 1980 and 2000, because they were born in the technological revolution in a time of rapid change. They're a very different set of principles to generations before, and they're Fox thinkers and digital natives. For the mosaic groups, I am targeting liberal opinions because these are all young. A lot of uni graduates fall into this category. They have a high income, they've gone into a good job, and they're enjoying the vibrancy of city life. So yeah, and also this genre prioritises the highest need on Maslow's hierarchy of needs of self-actualization, spontaneity, and creativity.